ready for true happiness, for deep fulfillment, for feeling alive, on purpose, and in control of your life again? It's time to be the bold, brilliant, beautiful woman you were born to be. Welcome to the PurposeGirl podcast. I'm women's happiness and life purpose expert Karen Rockkind, and I'm going to teach you how to live on purpose, feel alive, and be happy in every aspect of life. I'm going to get real about my life and interview women who are living on purpose so that you can finally live yours. Welcome to the show. Hello, Purpose Girls. So when I was in my first marriage, crying every day, feeling so stuck and so lost and so confused because I had done everything that I was supposed to do, feeling just so unhappy. One day I went into the shower, and I remember that felt like a safe place that I could cry because he couldn't hear me crying as long as the water was running hard enough. I remember feeling that water trickle down my cheeks, mix with my tears, leaning against the cold tile and saying, I guess that this is all there is. This is all there is to life. And I remember hearing some voice. It was like out of nowhere. I don't even know what the voice was. But she was very strong. And she said, oh no, there's much more. I felt a little sigh of relief. I said, there is? She said, oh yes, honey, there is. And I was able then to dry my tears and to finish my shower and to step out and wrap myself in my towel and go into my bed and just curl up and have a good night's rest. Now, it took me years to understand what that voice was, because quite honestly, if I just talk about a voice talking to me in the shower, it can sound kind of nutty. But that voice was universal energy. That voice was one of my guides. That voice was source. That if we are quiet enough, and we actually allow our minds to quiet, we can tune in and we can hear truth. We all have it, but we don't quite know what it is or how to access it. And people talk about doing energy work. And it is so important because as I have strengthened this voice within me, this voice never steers me wrong. This voice was there when I was robbed at gunpoint and I thought I was about to lose my life. And it is that voice that said to me, oh no, you are here for purpose. That voice has come to me so many times. And whenever I'm confused or I don't know what to do, if I just get quiet enough and I listen, I can always hear exactly the right thing to do. And so that's what I want to talk about today on the Purpose Girl podcast is how we actually tune in to the energy that is all around us and available to us. True source, true guidance, truth. And my expert today is the perfect person to lead us through this. Emily McNa is a multi-passionate entrepreneur with 15 years in the high-tech world. After hitting a big burnout in her late 20s, she finally owned up to understanding her own energy field, and with simple tools was able to release anxiety, stress, and instead thrive in life. She's the founder of Wear Gratitude, an eco-conscious underwear line for women. So fun, allowing us to easily set intentions for our day and bring in high vibrational energies to support us throughout the day. She is known for Your Energy First. She is an energy guide, and she is going to take us and help us to really understand this, how we can tap into that higher power, that higher energy in order to live our best life. Emily, welcome to the Purpose Girl podcast.
Karen, thank you so much. I love talking to you, and I love that you have created this platform for women to have these conversations. And that intro, I was feeling that story. I was like, I have questions from it already.
Oh, good. Okay. Because I love it when my guests actually do the work with me, because then we can actually feel it and do it. And this episode is part of our Client Spotlight series. So Emily and I have been working together on her purpose and really bringing this out into the world. And I'm so freaking proud of you, Emily, and how you have taken what has been an innate knowing, right? A talent that you have, a gift that you have. And we're going to talk about how you've just been bringing this work to people all over and expanding big time. So before we do that, I want to start with, what is energy? People might hear about Reiki or energy healing and kind of be curious, but then also feel like, I don't know what that is. So where do we even start? What is energy?
Yeah. So we are energetic beings. And it's this part of us that has sort of been hidden for a long time. And it's almost as if in the past there's been a little sense of like distrust, meaning we really seek outward support, outward approval. And this
Mm.
is how societies were built in a way that really created a lot of like form and structure, which in a lot of ways we just really needed, right? Like we need electricity, we need buildings, we have global communication now, which is incredible. So we're very grateful to the masculine for building those things up in our society. And now we're entering into this time of acting out on our purpose, and also on feeling. We're really in this feminine age.
Mm.
And that's why I was so drawn to working with you, is because you really help. As women, so much of us have had to be in our masculine to survive.
Hmm.
And being in the tech world, that was so prominent. And then, of course, I had this breakdown. And as I rebuilt myself and started to feel into who I am and what I am, now it's much more of a balance, right? And that's something that we talk about, is how do we live out a feminine purpose in a masculine world?
Hmm.
And so our energy at our core is just how we feel. But the way that I like to break it down is we have our physical body, and we all know that our physical body is actually broken down into atoms or particles, right? And those have vibrations. And our soul actually comes into our body and hangs out there.
Hmm.
And then we've got our chakras. And, it's funny because I learned about energy very organically. I was raised just in a very like leave it to beaver, simple, beautiful home, and raised Catholic and got my degree in finance. It's like everything was just sort of like I just should have been like trucking along, right?
Perfect in the box. Not that there's anything wrong with any of that, right? It sounds beautiful. Like you had a beautiful family, beautiful upbringing, beautiful faith, followed a good, solid, lucrative
Yeah.
career, and yet you still had a breakdown.
Yeah, big time. And what I wasn't doing is I wasn't, energy is it's a lot of different things. It's actually very simple, just getting to the point where it's like it is our feeling, it is what we're
Mm.
feeling. Um, we just don't always pay attention to it. And so getting back to what I was saying, our souls in our physical body, and then our chakras actually pin this, it keeps our body pinned in. And then chakras are so beautiful because they actually hold lessons for us.
Mm.
And it's like never ending lessons. So people talk about like clearing chakras and blockages and all this stuff. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, work on one thing at a time. There's always going to be the next thing to be learned, right?
Mm. So let me make sure we know where we are. So we have our physical body, which is the
Yeah,
body that most of us are really familiar with, right? This is the body that is focused on, that people focus on in everyday life. And really we're so cruel to our physical body, right? Like we measure or judge our body based on how it looks compared to what society says. And so when we think about who we are, we often only think of that container. And
right.
what you're saying is we also have an energy body. And the
Yes.
energy body, we have a chakra system, which I want to get into what that is and how people can tap into those lessons that you were talking about. So there's an energy system that runs right up and down our body, and that is part of our system. And then our soul it's like a soul body.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. And it also, that soul emanates from outwardly from our physical body. And then just to add one other little layer to it, our soul is actually connected to source or
Mm.
spirit or God, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is that you're comfortable with, or the
Mm-hmm.
universe. So our soul is that divine connection.
Mm.
And then what happens is we also have these personality layers, these beautiful personality layers
Mm.
that we develop beyond inception, even, that come through. It's like we look at a little kid and, we're like, where did they learn this? Or they
Mhm.
start to show us their personality right away. So our personality layers are those things that we want to work on in this lifetime. And these
Mm.
things, our soul comes in wanting to learn lessons. And so our personality is like, I'll learn those lessons.
Yeah, I'll take you to exactly the right places and give you all
Right.
the right experiences to do that.
Yeah.
So when you hear my story, for someone who's listening to this and they're like, okay, I'm curious, but I don't quite get it, or I don't quite
hmm
know how to tap into that.
hmm
What was happening in that shower?
What I love is you were being so real with yourself. And
Mm,
you were allowing yourself to be raw, and you were allowing yourself to say, holy crap, I don't have all the answers, but this doesn't feel good. And you were listening to this part of you that was like, there has to be something more.
mm,
And that is such a valid desire.
mm,
And then also, what I love is when you heard that voice, because everybody can relate to our gut intuition.
mm-hmm,
We've all felt our gut, come through really strongly from time to time. And what we're starting to recognize and realize is that that gut intuition is guiding us every single step we make. So when I'm
mm-hmm,
taking steps to make my coffee in the morning and to get ready and going through the ups and downs of the day as we all work on ourselves, we're being fully supported. So you're in the shower and you hear this voice. And I think also people are starting to become more comfortable with understanding that we do have guides,
mm,
and our guides are there to help connect our soul with our personality.
mm,
Because our
mm.
personality oftentimes operates from the headspace, all the
Right,
shoulds, and then our
right.
soul says, but how do you feel?
Mm,
So our guides, they don't ever tell us what to do. This is the other thing I really like to point out to people. When we work with the light, which is love and spirit, they come from a place of pure divine love, and we have free will. So I went through this period of like, okay, well, I'm going to ask my guides. And they're like, come on, they're like, you got to decide, you got to pick a path. And the only thing they're ever going to come back and tell us is what feels good, what feels right.
mm. This is so important. Yeah, if we just put like a picture frame around this and we get into the feeling of peace that we get when we have that gut feeling or that voice or that guide, but then very quickly, the feeling can turn into fear, right? Because then the mind takes over and the
Yes.
mind can start saying, are you crazy? That's ridiculous. You can't quit your job and travel the world, or you can't start a
Right.
business, or who do you think you are to start a new relationship or get out of this relationship? And so, how do we differentiate those voices when we have that moment of clarity or calm from energy, from source, from gut, that feeling, but then it so quickly can turn into fear? And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Oh my gosh. I think that's one of the most relatable struggles out there.
Yeah.
And the first thing I always say is to drop into your body. And we have the other piece of all of this is at our core, at our center, that is our true divine connection.
Hmm.
And so we want to breathe into our center. And we can even imagine a bright light there if you want to go that far. You don't have to, but I always say breathe into your core and feel into it. And this is still a practice for me. When I make a big decision, it was like, working with you is I was transitioning. I hadn't been making investments in me yet.
Hmm.
And I think that's one of the biggest gifts we can give ourselves is investments in us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And dropping into my physical body, it felt good. It felt right. It actually felt a little adventurous, which is
Mm.
crazy to say, right? But so, and then of course the logical head is like we want to be safe. And what happened, what actions do we take to feel safe? We save money, we squirrel away money, we don't allow it to flow and be supportive energy for us. And that's how we want it to be. So um, it's about dropping into your body, and then it's also about trusting. And then what we do is when we get into the place of fear and we're like, okay, well, I've dropped into my body. I know this feels right. Then we're like, okay, now what's the next game plan? What are the next steps? We're like, okay, well, if this is the right thing to do, show me the clear path. And that would take all the fun out of life. But then we got to take steps that feel good too. And that's part of the exploration process.
It's such a mystery. This is such a difference between living in the masculine and living in the feminine. And of course, we want to live in a good balance of both. The masculine is do, go, go, go. And the feminine is being and flow. And the feminine, there's a mysterious piece of it. It's co-creating with the universe in a way that we won't have all of the answers.
Yes.
But if we are listening, if we can quiet our mind and really, really listen, we will receive the information about the next right step.
Right. And it's scary. It's scary to get quiet. And because then we're like, well, what am I going to hear? Because sometimes it's not what we want to hear.
Right. When we hear this job is just not doing it for you, or this is just not it, or this relationship is not fulfilling you.
Yes.
We want to sometimes then cling on and say, no, I don't want to hear that.
Exactly.
But the angst has been there anyway, right? It's not actually hearing the energy, hearing that intuition, hearing that voice. It's that it's confirmation of what we already have been thinking.
Exactly. And I see this with client sessions a lot because I think the old paradigm around energy has been, there's terms like woo-woo, or people think of like astrology as far as like future telling or psychics. They sort of lump it into that. And what I share with clients is if you're human, you're intuitive. If you're human, you have a sixth sense. We just haven't been taught how to safely explore it. And that is what is so important I see this paradigm shift with, people are really familiar, like with the term like Reiki. So what happened with Reiki is a gentleman, he fasted and meditated on a mountain for a long period of time. And then he received this information on, here are some tools to take what is universal healing energy, which is our God-given right, being a human and a living thing. And this accounts for every little thing, like our fur babies, all the animals out there, all the trees. So divine energy and source is within everyone. It is accessible to everyone. It's within you right now. If you're listening to this, it's within you. But before we thought, okay, so, Reiki gave us construct to sort of spread this tool to the masses. So we took our literal minds and said, we're going to somehow blend it with this, very not literal thing that we can't allegedly see. And so that's how it got spread to the Western world. And now I see this beautiful shift amongst people who are called to what I say is like hold energetic space for someone. Some people call it healers. It doesn't really feel like that because you're really holding space for someone to do their own healing. And I think that's what people truly want, right? We don't want the power to be in somebody else. We want the power to be within ourselves.
Well, it's certainly much more effective, right? It's like when we do your purpose work, if I just tell you, Emily, do this and then do this and then do this, you would do it. And sometimes that's probably what you want. When we're sitting in a session, it's probably what you want. Like, Karen, just tell me, And sometimes I might, because if I'm like, all right, well, this is what I did, or this is what I've seen be successful.
Right.
But for the most part, it's much more effective when someone really goes inside and has their own answers.
100%.
And is able to really create that. And one of the things I love about you and your work is rather than you being that healer who does something to someone else so that they heal or receive support or grow, is you're very big on supporting someone in tapping into their own energy and their own ability and teaching them how. So take
Right.
us through, what are some of the things that people come to you with?
Yeah. So oftentimes people come when they are, well, if they're feeling stressed out or anxious and they don't know why. So
Mm,
this is the other part of our energy. You have to imagine like your energy, it actually goes out further than your physical body, like by at least a foot or so, and sometimes more, depending on the experience we're having. If we're jovial and we're dancing and we're having a good time, our energy is like flowing and expanded way out. If we're having to, heaven forbid, walk through a morgue, our energy is probably going to be a bit more contracted and
mm,
but oftentimes, we have so many day-to-day stressors and we're operating from our shoulds. I call my to-do list my wish list. And so that's how we typically run our days. And what happens when clients come to see me is I always say they're coming home to themselves, because
mm,
that's really what I hold space for and what I teach is how do you recognize this light within you, and how do
mm,
you recognize that it's a safe space to be and to come to on a regular, maybe even daily basis. So, oftentimes, when clients are feeling a bit lost, discombobulated, I really try to coach my clients with what do you want to accomplish, and then what happens is their guides communicate with me and my guides and basically show like this is their end goal,
mm,
and then they give me the guidance to give them through questions,
mm, mhm,
because again, this is about self-discovery, and not every client is ready to get to the end goal in one session.
mhm,
But the other thing that happens with energy work is we're like tuning forks for each other.
mm.
So those times where we're talking to someone and afterwards we just kind of feel like tired or icky, or we're like, we don't want to talk to that person anymore. The same can be felt when we are with someone we're totally aligned with.
Yes.
So yeah, it's kind of like people talk about when they met their partner, they're like, "I don't know what it was, but I wanted more." You talked
Yes.
about that experience with Josh, or one of my other girlfriends, she's like, "I just kind of felt myself leaning into him."
Mm,
So that's the other piece is we're tuning forks for each other, and so I say I hold my light so that you can then recognize yours and operate from that space,
mm.
ideally.
This is so beautiful, and it's really helping to understand our energy, because we all do feel it when we're around someone who expands us,
Yes.
who is glowing or is fun or is super content. And we can feel their
Right.
energy, and their energy then kind of passes off on us. And from a scientific perspective, right? So you and I both know that that's energy. And if we want to put some science behind it, we know that emotions are contagious, that how we show up has an impact up to 3 degrees of separation, whoever you're around. And so, what we're talking about here is that that is your core energy. And we all feel it when we're around someone who's just like, no, they just seem
Right.
off, or that is just not a person for me. But what happens is what we were talking about before, we don't listen. Well,
Right.
maybe I should give him another try. Oh, I'm too picky. Oh, he's probably just having a bad day. And 10 times out of 10, you will come back and you will realize that that gut feeling, that intuition was that tuning fork. It
Mm,
was correct. And so,
yes.
what I love, and I'm hearing you say, is you really create a container for someone
Mm,
to go inside and be able to feel their own
mhm.
energy and be able to tune into it. As someone who's listening to this, how do they quiet their mind so they can actually do it?
Okay, I'm going to teach you guys a really quick and easy tool that is so simple. And when I learned this, and I'm in a lot of ways very self-taught. And then what happens once I learn something, because I go within and I meditate and all that, and also just by operating in my general day to day. And then what I learn or what I love is, how you learn something and then all of a sudden you start to see it places or you hear it places and you get all of these confirmations. So I had learned this very simple technique, and I was drawn to this Buddhist monk. And so I listened to his most played episode. It was like 3 minutes on this meditation app, and it talked about this exact tool.
Hmm.
And so, what this tool is your breath. And what my guides always say is to keep it simple,
Hmm.
because we think, oh, my breath, well, I've heard that before, but do we do it? And, my guides are even constantly like reminding me. And what we want to do is we want to physically see our breath in our imagination. And we just want to see it go into our belly. And then we want to push our belly out. That's how babies breathe. They know how to breathe. When we get tense and stressed from our day to day, our chest tightens up, our shoulders
Mhm.
tighten up, we have shortness of breath. And so we want to physically imagine our breath going into our belly.
Mm.
And as we repeat that process a few times, we actually want to see that breath expanding throughout our body.
I'm doing this with you and I'm loving it.
Right? It's so simple.
Well, I'm loving the image of all of the meditation I've done, of all of the breath work I've done. No one's ever taken me through the visual of seeing the breath come into my body and seeing that breath expand in my body. And what I'm noticing is that it's really taking me into my body and my mind is quiet.
And you're doing energy work,
Mm.
and you're doing it yourself.
Hmm.
And it's really powerful, and it will evolve as you continue to play with it and explore. And I
Mm.
always tell clients, trust whatever you see, because we haven't been taught how to perceive energy.
Right.
And this gets back to our gut. People, we can totally relate that we've all had that strong gut feeling from time to time. But then you tell someone, oh, I communicate with guides, or, which we all do, because again, that's your gut intuition. And people feel like, that's a gift, or
Mm.
that's a talent or something.
Right.
And
It's for someone else, or they can't comprehend it with their mind, and so then they abandon it.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So the breath work is the easiest way to, and again, the guides are like, just don't overcomplicate it. It doesn't have to be 3 breaths or 8. It doesn't have to be,
Mm.
or whatever it is, those little
Right. A certain cadence of your breath. It's so amazing. My life completely changed when I stopped listening to just my mind and all those shoulds, and I
Mm-hmm,
started really dropping in
mm-hmm,
and listening for truth within,
yeah,
or dropping within and noticing if there are images that come to me,
yes,
or noticing if there are colors that come to me or words that come to me. And we talked a little bit about the masculine and the feminine. And a huge piece of this for me was that after I got my master's degree in positive psychology, I was like, this is awesome, but part of me still feels like shit. So what's going on here?
yeah,
And
yeah,
what I realized is that it was very much in my mind. It was very academic. It was very heady, Ivy League, blah, 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 go me, whatever it might be, right? But it still was, how do I shift things in my mind? How do I shift stories? And all of that is super important and still work that I do with clients and with myself today. But what I realized is it was completely neck up, as
yeah,
opposed to it all being in the body.
right.
And the body, I just felt like there has to be something with my body. There has to be something more. And so my next deep dive was a deep dive into the feminine. And it
Mm,
was when I started diving into the feminine and I started really learning how to quiet my mind and go into my body with simple phrases like,
mm-hmm,
show me what I'm here to do. Show me what's next.
yes,
Or started listening to meditations and going inside and noticing if a color came to me or noticing if an image came to me. Really listening. And it wasn't easy because there's a lot of times my mind does not want to shut up, right? My
I know,
mind just wants to keep going and going and going.
of course.
But it made such a difference And learning, what I learned, and I'm curious about this for you, Emily, is learning to trust my intuition, which is the feminine first. Right. And our
Mm-hmm.
intuition, by the way, comes from our energy body. It also comes from the years of life experience that you've had. And so your
Absolutely.
body is very well attuned to be able to tell you what you need and what's good for you and what isn't.
Right.
And that feeling, like that juiced up, excited feeling about someone or something that might make absolutely no sense, like traveling the world, when you have a negative bank account might make no sense. And yet
Right.
that could be the exact place that you're going to meet your partner, meet your business partner, whatever it might be.
Yep.
And so it makes a huge difference when we're in that feminine. And what I've learned is to listen first and get that intuition, inspiration, all beginning with the word in, and
Yeah.
then use my mind to say, now, how can I make that happen?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's really cool. Like, I love how you were saying you trusted whatever came to your mind. Like, was it a color? Was it an image? This was something years ago, I kind of, I thought the whole, like, I was like, oh my gosh, don't give me another chakra story, and I was like, this is all too, woo to the woo. And I was
Right.
like, I like living in a comfortable home. I like having electricity and access to, coffee and my friends and all that.
Well, and to be clear, Emily has had, a big tech career. So
Right.
she's been like in that
Right.
mind world, in that,
Right.
the way we're supposed to do it world. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think, when we think of like meditation, or we think of maybe, energy stuff, people will always ask me like, well, have you done the silent retreat? Have you been to India? And it's like, we don't all, we're not all meant to be monks meditating on
Right.
the side of the mountain.
Right. Nor do we need to.
No, we don't. The world would tilt on its axis and it wouldn't make sense, right? So we're meant to be these beautiful, aware, and energetic beings in our regular lives.
Hmm.
We're meant to drive a convertible and have fun, right? Like, we're meant to drop into ourselves and say, what does feel right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the big thing that I love about what you just said is you asked for support.
Hmm.
So when we go inward, the first thing we can do is just say, I need help. Help me. We
Hmm.
can say, I don't know what I'm doing. We can say, I don't know what I need. We
Mm.
do that from time to time.
Yes. And there's permission in the feminine.
Yes.
In the masculine, the way that we've all been raised, and this is not anti-man, it's just saying we were all raised in a
Sure.
masculine world where you had to know the answer to every single question on the test in order to get it right. Which,
And that was your value.
and that was your value, that was your worth. And it actually
Yeah.
then left out all of the magic. And
Right.
as women, we are magical. There's like a way of co-creating that can
Yes.
only be tapped into if we go
Yes.
inside.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. And so we ask for support, and we ask for, and you felt inclined to do meditation, for example. And I think that's what we need, is we need to go within, and then we just need to say, I need help. And
Hmm.
the other thing that's really interesting, and this also gets into being in the feminine, but when it comes to source, when we think about like all the ultimate, when we tap into source for support and for help, source expands.
Hmm.
So every living thing on this planet at the same time could go to source for support, could go to source for the exact same thing, like needing support for the exact same thing, and source would expand. Whereas our literal mind thinks, okay, if I call Karen and I ask for help and I ask a favor, you're literally giving me your time. You're sacrificing something else to support me. And that's kind of why I think we don't, we're hesitant to reach out for help, because we're like, well, we only should ask for help when we're in dire need of it. And the
Hmm.
truth is, source is like, hey, our soul is source. Our soul comes from source, and then it's in our body. So if you think
Hmm.
about that, that's like, whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And it also makes me think that, and I don't want to infringe on anyone's religious beliefs because I am totally in favor of everybody having their own belief, that I know in my own life, I so often went to God when I was, younger and
Mhm.
would say, help me, save me. You do
Yeah,
this thing. And what
right.
I've come to appreciate and what I love about what you just said is that God is actually in me.
Mhm.
And that if I listen, then I can co-create with God, universe, source, faith,
Right.
goddess, whatever we want to call
Mhm.
this higher energy.
Mhm.
But this energy exists within all of us and the ability then to expand.
Yes,
Mm.
exactly. And in sessions too, what I hear, what a client's guides will tell them so often, which tells me we really need to hear this, is you're doing a great job.
Hmm.
Because when people, when we're trying to get clarity on something is oftentimes when someone comes to see me because they are saying, and then of course it's like, well, how are you feeling? What do you think? And then the guides validate or help them see what it is they're, truly meant to do. So once we realize that this does sit within us, God, literally, I mean, we are one, and we realize that we can be supported at all times, it becomes kind of a crazy wild ride. Like,
Hmm.
I used to feel so vacant. Like when I was going through a really hard time, I was like, it was almost like I was reaching out for something and I was like, please help me. And then now realizing, it's almost like a warmth, right? It's like a
Mm.
warmth from within that's here to support us. And in sessions, the guides always tell people, you're doing a great job. It's like, and we just need to hear it because when we're going through a challenging time, we're not always sure of ourselves that we're making the right decision.
Exactly.
And yeah, and when we're doing our best, we're doing a great job. And I also think we don't give ourselves enough credit. We're always looking, and I'm guilty of this myself, but I'll be looking forward. And it's like, well, when I accomplish this, I can tell myself, good job.
Hmm.
And I did that for this year too. In review, the guides had me look at, okay, and this was actually part of your Women's Global Happiness Day event. But we talked about like what have we accomplished this year? What have we done, as opposed to thinking about what we're going to do for this upcoming year. And I
Right.
really loved that.
Mm.
I think it's that stopping to say yes. You know,
Mm.
we're doing the work.
Mhm, mhm. You just made me think, energy can actually be super fun. Okay, right? Like, this co-creation can be so fun, and when you hear people talk about manifesting, or as I call it, womanifesting or attracting, some people out there might roll their eyes at because I used to roll my eyes and at the same time be like, "But please, please, please show me how to do that. Show me how to do that. I want to attract. I want to manifest," you know?
Yes.
And and then it's like I could see other people doing it, and I didn't know how they were doing it. And I would love your thought on this because I have been in this period of just playing with the universe. And this is why I say that a woman must be in her pleasure. Because when we are in pleasure, when we are in joy, when we are having fun, when we are in approval of ourselves, even things that you might not quote unquote approve of, you're in approval of your belly, you're in approval of that you ate extra at the holidays, you're in approval of yourself, you will have greater access to this deeper energy. And the last day of Burning Man, I was so elevated. I was so high, and I don't mean on drugs. I just mean on life, that I was walking outside in between all of the RVs as we were waiting to leave, and I was dancing, and I was really just by myself dancing. And I said to the goddess, Goddess, I'd like 10 new coaching clients this fall. Okay, thank you. And I am telling you, with zero marketing, they have all come. Zero. And so there is just something so fun when we can really work with this energy. And I think that gratitude is a huge piece of it. Trusting is a huge piece of it. Playing and pleasure is a huge piece of it. So, Emily, how do you do this? If somebody's like, I want to manifest something, I want to attract something, is it like as easy as thinking about the blue Mercedes? Because I don't think it's that easy. There's something else going on, and I want you to explain what's going on.
Oh my gosh. Manifesting is such a hot topic. I feel like
Yeah.
it's one of those things, again, it's another one of those tools for energy, right? We're like, we need a tool to feel like we can actually accomplish this energetic thing. What I love about what you just said is you are in flow. You were in your
Mm.
own personal divine alignment.
Hmm.
And when that thought popped into your head, that was you listening to your guides, because our guides sound like ourselves.
Hmm.
There's no voices in our heads, right? Like it feels like our own voice. And it was like, you were like, I want 10 coaching clients. And they were like, and it is so, you're in alignment. You recognize that this is the next step, and it happened easy peasy. Love that.
Hmm.
And I also love that you took yourself wildly out of your comfort zone and expanded and stretched, yet felt so good and felt
Mm.
so at home, right? And so those are the things, especially if we have, like, if our day to day keeps us in a very literal mind. Like for me, being in the tech world is a very literal mind. So what I used to do in order to transition out of it is I used to drink. And I
Right.
don't recommend.
Right. Numb it out. Right. Cover it up.
Right.
Hmm.
Exactly. So, and now of course there's, my life is so much more balanced and in flow that that's not what I do anymore, but dancing's a big one. Movement's a big one. I always tell
Mm.
people when it comes to, the first step of manifesting is feeling, so whatever it is you're desiring, you're already carrying that vibration somewhere within you. So you really want to feel it. But I'm
Mm.
going to tell you a funny story about manifesting.
Hmm.
So I was in my early 20s, and I built two vision boards. And one of the vision boards had a picture of a view in downtown Seattle. We have a lot of water in Seattle, and there's this one lake downtown. And there's a screenshot of sailboats because there's sailboat races. There's a picture of that. There was a picture of an engagement ring. There was a picture of a bunch of other stuff, right? Physical things, literal things. And then on my second board was much more like, I wanted like great sex and a lot more pleasure and a lot more fun. It was sort of like my two boards were masculine and feminine, right?
Mm. It was like the things that you're supposed to want over on one,
Exactly.
and then the feeling of how you want to feel in life on the other.
Exactly. Nailed it. So and it was funny is when I was looking at these pictures, like looking at the view, I felt that. I felt excitement and peace at the same time. And I felt the joy of looking out at this view and the experiences I would have living in a place that offered that view.
Hmm.
And then the other things on the board didn't resonate with me. The engagement ring didn't resonate with me. When I was 25, I think I was in or had attended 7 weddings, more than that even. And
Mm.
so this was sort of how my brain was trained, right? Like,
I should be getting ready to be married. I should be in a relationship.
exactly. There were so many shoulds, and yet I knew in my heart of hearts my path was going to be different. And
Mm.
so I'm moving into this apartment with my cousin, and we're all jazzed because we're in downtown Seattle and we love the spot. And my mom goes, "Oh my God, Emily." And I look over and she's holding one of my vision boards. And I about died. I was like, "Oh my God, this is the one about great sex." I don't want to do that. And I was like, "Mom," the poor thing. Here she is helping me. And I like yelled at her. I was like, "Mom,
Mm.
no." And she held her ground and she goes, "No, Emily, look." And I'm getting chills telling the story. And she pointed to that picture. And
Mm.
it was as if the picture that I had taken out of that magazine was taken from the apartment we were just
Wow.
moving into that day.
Wow. 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 And that was the one you said really resonated in your energy.
Exactly.
So this is so important,
Exactly.
right? Everyone, as you're hearing this, what I'm getting from Emily, and this is so super important to what I call womanifesting, okay? This is about how you want to feel. So when you're
Right.
doing a vision board or you're thinking about your 2020 goals or whatever it might be, you could have all these thoughts that are based on what you should be doing, what status you're supposed to have, blah, 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 blah. And none of those will make that energetic expansion that Emily was talking about, the energetic expansion of joy and pleasure, the one that actually would go out to the universe and where it would be answered. Rather, feel into, and this is why I always say begin with how do I want to feel? Feel
Yes.
into what would I really desire? Feel into how do I want to feel? Do I want to feel alive? Do I want to feel great sex? Like the feeling.
Yeah.
And that feeling then expands and then is going to support and bringing it to you.
Yes. And to your point, give yourself permission to feel those things in the first place.
Yes. Yes. And that feeling, when we talk about vibration, literally, I mean, we can see it now. There are scientific studies that show that there
Yes.
is a physical response to your energetic vibration. It's been
Yes.
shown in ice crystals. It's been shown. There's a study where people would say nice things while they were making and baking chocolate. In one batch of chocolate and in another, they weren't. And
Mhm.
people felt more loved when they were eating the
Yeah,
chocolate where it was baked in with love. So energy really does multiply and really does matter.
it does. It so does. There's a great series on Gaia TV called Missing Links. If someone is a little bit of a nerd, science has proven over and over again that energy is not only extremely real, but that we are truly interconnected. Almost
Mm.
to the point where you're like, oh crap.
Whoa, whoa.
Pause a few times just to digest all the information.
Yeah. Because we are literally particles, right? We are just high vibrating particles that to us look like skin or look like a computer
Yep,
screen or a microphone. But on an energetic plane, really it's just moving energy that is so fast we can't see it.
exactly. And this other story that's coming up, because if people are out there thinking, hearing this and thinking to themselves, well, how are my guides communicating with me? It's
Mm.
when you take those gentle steps, like you thinking to yourself, I want to manifest 10 clients with ease, or I want 10 clients by the end of fall with ease, that kind of a thing. It's those gentle steps that we feel inclined to take. That is us being guided to our soul path. And our
Mm.
soul comes on this earth plane, we kind of think, oh, there's some big grandiose purpose. And there is a grandiose purpose, which is to expand yourself. And you expand by having experiences, but your purpose could be like one thing, it could be 18 things.
Mm.
One of your purposes could be like, I just want the biggest, fluffiest bed of life. And I want to, your purpose could be reconnecting with a certain soul person in this lifetime. Maybe it's a grandmother, maybe it's a dog, maybe it's a neighbor, you don't know. But this other story that keeps popping into my head about other ways we want to gently listen to ourselves and expand our own energy. I was a barista in college, and this was my guides like guiding me to sort of play with energy, right? Play, like your point earlier, play with it, have fun, create more pleasure, I guess. Um, but I was a barista, and this couple came in, and they were going to sit down and have coffee that night. And it was in the evening. I'm sure the fireplace was going because, Pac Northwest, it's like raining half the time. So they come in and they ordered two white chocolate mochas for here. And I remember thinking to myself, out of nowhere, again, it's guided. I was like, I'm going to make these with love.
Mm.
And I'm going to kind of play around with this.
Mm.
And so I'm making their white mochas, and I took my time, and all I did, Karen, was think to myself, love, literally,
Mm.
just thought love, 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 oh, I need to clean up that spot over there. Love, love. Okay, they want 2% milk. Love, I'm looking at it with love. I'm just feeling love, thinking love. And I hand them their white mochas, and then I forget about it. And I'm cleaning up, and she comes back over to me, and she goes, we wanted to tell you that those were the best mochas we've ever had.
Mm.
It caught me like on my back heels a bit, right?
Whoa.
And I was like, oh my gosh, it works.
Yeah.
And it's simple.
It is simple. It is
Yeah.
simple. Another one of my coaching clients was debating if she would go on a journey of rediscovering her grandmother's story and write about her grandmother's story. And of course, but I shouldn't leave my job. I should. And then we pulled a card, right?
Mm-hmm.
An oracle card just to see. And she got a card in one of my Kuan Yin decks that was grandmother sending you on a journey. Literally, it was called grandmother sending you on a journey. Like, I can't make this shit up. Grandmother
You
sending
can.
you on a journey, So, okay, I got my answer.
I love
So
this.
when we are in our higher selves, and I think that my Burning Man story, part of it is that I really listened to that part of me that said, I want to go to Burning Man. And did
Yes.
not listen to the voice that said, it's expensive. You don't know what you're doing. That's
Right.
crazy. People do
Right.
drugs there. Like any of that. I
Right.
just listened to myself. And while I was there, I allowed myself to feel everything, including the difficult stuff, to
Right.
dance, to expand, to meet new people, to be so in flow that when I had that hit that download on the last day, universe, I got aside like 10 new coaching clients. I was already in that energetic flow. And I think that this is really important for people. So how do we get there? We get there by first getting into the feeling. And what I'm hearing you say, Emily, is allow yourself to have that feeling. Give
Absolutely.
yourself permission. Be in it, marinate in it. Put that love into everything like you did with those mochas, right? Put the feeling, if it's great sex, put that feeling into your clothing when you get ready in the morning. If it is feeling alive, put that into when you're putting on your lipstick. Like put the feeling into everything like you did the mocha.
Yep, exactly. And go
Genius.
inward for that support. And
Genius.
the other thing is, I love that you touched on pulling a card. This is the other thing that I love that this is shifting as well, because again, we are used to outward, seeking outward support. And what you said is it was like confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I am working with someone who does like tarot or works with astrology, they come from their core. There's a few people I work with, and the decks and everything are just tools, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to rely on those outward tools to give us answers. What I like to say is, we go within, we feel what we feel, and then things like that give us confirmation, because we do need confirmation. And
Yeah.
that is as big a confirmation.
I know that one was, because sometimes you can read a card and you're like, yeah, that's not for me. Or you read your
Right,
horoscope, you're like, that one wasn't for me. But
right,
sometimes it feels
right.
it. So I want to shift because you're also creating a whole gratitude line of clothing, which is
Yeah.
so cool. So tell us about Wear Gratitude.
Yeah. So the way that this idea stemmed from I didn't just like hit a wall when I was working in tech at one point. It was like, sludging through the dungeons, hitting wall after wall. And I was like, well, if I'm hitting this wall, I just need more coffee. I'm just going to keep ignoring that gut feeling for a while longer. Um, but I was really, I was so in my masculine, I was not caring for myself. And it was like getting up at Oh Dark 100, and, I always joke like dry shampoo is my best friend. I mean, it still is, but,
I understand. Yeah.
like, a little codependency issue there.
But not like the deep self-care. You were drinking a lot. Maybe you were numbing
Yeah,
out on Netflix a lot. You were,
all the things.
all the things, not the deep level of self-care.
Absolutely, absolutely. I didn't even know really what self-care was. Again, I thought self-care was something that was woo-woo and self-love
Right.
and all that.
Totally.
So I'm going through these steps, but no, even on my worst day, what I would do is I would open up my underwear drawer, and my underwear are multicolored, right? I've got a bright blue one, I've got a florally one and all that. And I would pick the color based on my intention for that day or how I
Mm.
wanted to feel.
Yes. So
And
good.
yeah, and some days, Karen, that was the only thing I did to support myself.
Mm.
And so you go to the bathroom and you see the underwear, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. I wanted to bring in more love for myself." Ooh, not telling anybody I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Or I'd want to hold my truth and my voice in, my meetings were always predominantly with men, right? So I would want to hold my truth and my voice. So I would have a bright blue one because that's associated with the throat chakra.
Wow.
So then I started on this journey. I had this idea one day, and actually, this coincided with, we talked earlier a little bit about how, these day to day jobs are so masculine. And I remember the point. So I had this idea for the underwear line. And then it was like a week later, I was in my car in Green Lake in Seattle, and I had this realization that this life that I had built for myself is not the life I was going to continue living.
It's like my shower moment.
Exactly. And I was crying,
Mm.
and I was so scared
Mm.
because this is everything I knew,
Yeah.
and it's safe.
Yep.
And just the idea, because I knew, I was like, there's no going back at this point.
Yeah.
And I may have drug my heels a bit longer, and that's okay. That was my process. But that's what I love about this underwear line. And then I started to look at not a lot of underwear lines were created by women.
Mm,
And so I started looking into fabric. I wanted this to be an eco-conscious brand. And that was a whole other experience in and of itself. I thought I wanted bamboo. I had bamboo sheets. And then you learn about, how hard bamboo is and how much it takes to break down and all that. And then you want to work with manufacturers that are making these products in an eco-conscious, earth-friendly way. And so the product that I landed on is actually made of eucalyptus. And
mm,
in this beautiful farm, actually
hmm,
in Europe, where they just continue to reharvest these trees and utilize them. So,
beautiful.
and it's, healthy for us women. We need to be supported and healthy down there physically too.
Mm. I love this so much because I'm such a fan, as you know, of like clean out the icky underwear that is stained and just not
Yeah,
make you feel like a
yeah,
sexy, powerful, beautiful woman.
exactly.
And I don't know that I've ever mentioned on the podcast that I also pick my underwear based on my mood that day or what I need. So if I'm needing some love or I'm feeling
Yeah,
a little lovey, I will put on pink. Or if
yeah.
I need to feel a little sexier because I'm feeling blah, I'll put on some red. Or I might just be in a really like sad mood and then I just want some black. So I totally do that.
Exactly. Or I'm having my period and I need to have black.
Yeah,
It's like,
right. Exactly. Exactly. So this is so great. So when are the gratitude panties? When are they coming out?
yeah. So we pre-launch at the beginning of February. And that's when we're going to have the websites up and ready for people to subscribe just for updates. And then we have a whole backstory there. And the I'm really excited too because the group of models is from my network, and it
Hmm.
is real women. So
Yes.
that was so important to me because I go to these websites and I cannot relate, even the full figured women, which I am, I'm looking at these and I'm like, I don't look like that. um, and I remember one day I had this idea. I wanted a woman who's had a baby with stretch marks to be
Hmm.
featured as well. And so I had this idea and I was like, oh my gosh, who's going to be brave enough to do it? And I turn around and I saw my communications manager and I told her my idea and she goes, I'll do it. She goes, I got them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the other, piece of it. Like, we've got tattoos, we've got piercings, we've got women of all shapes and sizes and colors. And that was just so important to me that it's real women who are representing this because this brand is about the people that wear it and it's about
Yes.
how they feel when they wear it.
Oh my gosh,
And
I love this. I wish I lived there. I would want to be in your photo shoot.
do you want to be?
So of course I do, but I don't live there.
You can fly in for a long weekend. You
Oh,
and Josh.
maybe I will. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'll tell me, but I think this is so powerful because we need more of this. We need more examples of ourselves. So,
Yeah.
Emily, how did our purpose coaching help you to get where you are, where now you are ready to launch, where you're ready to launch your underwear line, where you're ready to launch your clothing line, where you now have a steady base of clients? You're
Right.
getting ready to launch your group program. Like, what did our coaching do for you?
Yeah. It provided a space for me to give myself permission to talk about this, plan it all out. And you also, and that's so important. Like, we need, you've been here and done it. You've gone through this process that I'm going through. And so you were an incredible sounding board, not just based on your experience, but you also are so good about listening to your gut intuition that,
Hmm.
you know, every session you and I have, you're like, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I'm getting. And it confirmed for me something that was trying to come out.
Hmm.
So you create a space really, really well to help people see for themselves what it is that they're wanting to do and how they're going to do it. And I think that's so important.
Hmm.
Especially when we talk about balancing, and you do it predominantly in the feminine, but you also have the masculine balance, which is what we need and is so relatable. And yeah, and I know you've talked about doing like group work, which I'm really excited about, and putting more of it together.
I
And
do. I want to get together a group of you who are all working on your purpose. And
yeah,
because there's something powerful about women coming together and supporting each other on it. I'm remembering our first session, it was like, what's my message? And I
yeah,
remember we did a long one. We did like 2 or 3 hours and it
yeah,
was really just creating that space, it was so clear to me. You were like, I don't know. And I'm like, oh no. Like as soon as we were done with the 2 hours, like you gave it all to me, just creating that space all the way down to, we had a session a couple months ago, I'm remembering, where we said, okay, what's a 30-day accountability challenge, right? So that was in the feminine, the first piece
Yeah.
of like really just supporting you in your own
Yeah.
message and me hearing what you said and then reflecting it back. And then you had this 30-day accountability challenge to me that was every day you were going to do something in the business. And I swear to God, it blew up after that, right?
Yeah.
That was the masculine piece, the
Yeah.
structure. And like all of a sudden, everything was done.
Exactly.
It was
Exactly.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we need, we need to get these ideas and thoughts and fears out of our head and into a space where somebody can help reflect back to us what it is that we're really, it really, a lot of things, a lot of my fears and anxieties, I felt not like less alone. It just felt like
Mm,
everything that I was going through was so much more normal based on our
mm.
conversations. I loved that one day deep dive we did because it was almost like this like launch pad, this permission just to throw it all out there and say, okay, here it all is. Now where do I go from here?
Right. And we did that at the beginning, which
Right.
is something I love doing with people at the beginning because you have all these ideas in your head
Yep.
and all these words, and then you don't know what to
Totally.
do with them. And
100%.
we totally funnel it down so that by the end of that day, you got it.
Exactly. And I also love that you were like, Emily, in our introductory call, you were like, Emily, you know your purpose. It's clear.
Mm.
And even still, I was like, okay, but I still need in in how do I get there?
Bringing it to life.
And one last thing I will say is I love that, I did a program before with a coach and it was extremely structured by this person's agenda. And I'm so glad I had that experience because then working with you truly co-create with your
Mm.
client, right? And it's about what are we needing right now because that's going to shift. And we talk about, accomplishments, we talk about fears, we talk about unlearning a lot of things that we've been taught as women, like over apologizing or not accepting things graciously and things like that. I mean, we really cover the gamut. And that's what I appreciate about sessions with you is that we always know what the core goal is, but the way that we get there is really creative.
Hmm. I'm so delighted. And I have to tell you, I am so freaking proud of you. You really have taken what was that intuition, that gut feeling of this is who I am and this is what I'm here to do, into creating a full on purpose business. And
Yeah.
it's such a delight to see. And I'm so proud of you. And I want everyone out there to know how they can reach you. So everyone where, and I have to tell you, her Instagram account, I follow it every day because I learn she like does meditations and she teaches you how to get into your energy. So let's talk
Yep.
about where people can find you.
Yeah. So they can find me at emilymarie.com. On Facebook and Instagram, it is at Your Energy First. And it's also iweargratitude.com. And then you can find it on the gram and Facebook, which is just Wear Gratitude.
Awesome. And of course, we have all those links in the show notes. And Emily, okay, we have to at least do one or two little questions. At the end of interviewing every guest, I like to ask these purpose power play round questions that are just totally random, and we're just going to dive in.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, the one book everyone must read.
Warrior of the Light by Paulo Coelho. I don't know if I'm actually saying his name right. He wrote The Alchemist, which
Yeah.
people are most familiar with. And that was what I love about him. I've read every single one of his books that's been translated to English. And what I love about him is he is Christian based and he also plays with the metaphysical. And so for me, being raised Catholic, he was one of my mentors and heroes in showing me how you can live both lives at the
Mm,
same time, how they can live congruently. So, Warrior of the Light, the other thing about energy work is people, everybody wants a name. What are you? Are you
mm.
a witch? Are you a warrior of the light? Are you a light worker? Are you a blah 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 blah? And I'm just like, I'm a human being that constantly chooses the light.
Mm,
Simple as
mm.
that. But that book of his it's a really good foundation for how you want to be as a human that chooses the light on a day-to-day basis.
I've got to read this book. I loved The Alchemist, and it's perfect. I have some time coming up where I can just
Yeah,
relax and read. So definitely.
yeah.
Okay, quick question. What did you have to stop doing in order to do, be, and have what you have now?
So I had to stop making myself busy with things that were covering up how I was feeling. So
Mm,
I leaned on alcohol way too much, to calm down, to help me sleep, to transit, to relieve stress, to transition, to calm my nerves when I was dating, all of those things.
mm,
Um, and TV is a great way for us to unwind, right? But when we're doing all of those things, what aren't we doing?
mm.
So I really had to, and I still watch TV and I still have a glass of wine from time to time. But I also meditate all day throughout the day, and I also, and walking meditations is one of my favorite things to teach people, which is that breath work, which we touched on earlier. That's a walking
Mm,
meditation because you can do it anywhere.
mhm.
I also, it's funny when you do energy work, the other people in this field who I love and trust, we've talked about this, but it's crazy how much integrity you have to have in your life in general in order to be in the light. And
Mm.
so when I look at like everything from the foods I consume to the people I engage with and work with, it's all very conscious choice.
Yes, and is this like a momentary, oh, this second glass or third glass of wine is going to feel good right now? Or the higher picture, how do I want to feel in life? What is important to me? And that is going to give you that answer and that higher integrity and will make you feel the way that then that question will ultimately give you that feeling. Emily, I could talk to you all day long. You're incredible. I
Likewise.
want everyone, I'm telling you, I listen to her meditations. You are going to want to go to her meditation class. She does them online, so you could do it from anywhere that you are in the world. You are definitely going to want to be following her. Her group program is coming out soon, all about how to tap into your own energy. Watch Emily. She is seriously the real deal and on fire. So, Emily, thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your gifts and sharing with us here at the Purpose Girl podcast.
I received that. Thank you so much. And
Mm-hmm.
likewise, thank you for creating this space for women to grow and expand. It's amazing.
It's my honor. And so, all of you out there, if you liked this episode, and we hope that you did, please, please, please hop over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. One sentence. Your reviews are what are helping women all over the world find us and begin to get on their life of purpose, their life of happiness, and create the empowered life that they were born for. Of course, if you're not yet in the Purpose Girls group on Facebook, what are you waiting for? It's totally free. I post different journal prompts every single day. It's where you'll be the first to find out about different things going on. So you want to go over to the Purpose Girls Facebook group, join us there. The other way to get the first knowledge of everything going on Purpose Girl is to join my newsletter. Go to purposegirl.com. You get a free Living on Purpose guide when you do it, just right on the homepage. Sign up and we will be sure to let you know about everything going on. Of course, you can find me over on Instagram at Karen Rockhind, over on Facebook at Coach Karen Rockhind. And as always, the most important thing you can do is to share this podcast with every woman you know, every woman who is tired of living in the shoulds and wants to be living in her higher joy. So share this podcast. That is how we change the world, one woman at a time. With that, my dear loves, may you live purposefully, may you love yourself, and may you love life. Bye for now.